Hello and good afternoon to Voicetv Nigeria. My name is Mohammed Jinadu and I'm your host on this program, The Logic. As you all know, The Logic is a program that actually brings to fore national issues as it concerns the people and the government policies. Um, we are here today with a very important personality that has become the MVP, so to speak, because of his courageous and his pursuit. This program today is actually to help probably understand the intent, the vision, and the perception change of a lot of stories that have been speculating the airspace. I'm not alone on this journey. I have my colleague Zainab Ahmed. How are you today?
Fine.
Without further ado, I know you have met a lot of personalities on our program, but I will want to discuss with my colleague. This person that we have there is called the Big Fish. Are you excited that he's here with us?
Yeah, I'm very excited because we have a lot of questions that will get answers today.
All right.
So it's an honor having me here in our midst today.
So, what do you know about this person that we're bringing
Mm,
today?
he's a journalist,
Okay,
he's a politician,
okay,
and he's an anti-corruption activist.
okay.
He's no other person but Omoyele Sowore. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Let me say Happy New Year to your viewers.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
We're happy to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
And we're honored because within the shortest of time that you just had your partial freedom, so to speak, because it's not total. We You honored us with this visit, and your teaming followers and Nigerians would love to hear from you. Um, Give answers to a lot of questions I'll be asking. Like we said, it's no hold barred, which means it's not rehearsed. He believes that look, he has nothing to hide, and he's open to answer any question that comes to him. Without taking much of your time, sir, because we believe you will love to rest. The first question will be this. There was a question from one of our subscribers that reads, how come Omoyele Sowore was handcuffed like a criminal over a peaceful protest? And a Kabiru Sokoto that masterminded the Madala bomb blast was escorted free without handcuff. Before we do this, we'd love the viewers to see a video to show what we're just talking about. Then he responds.
Revolution now!
Revolution now! We want to do something before we go. Revolution! We want to do something before we go. Revolution!
Yes. Okay, please. We just want to inform. Yes. Both. And we want to inform the Nigerian people through the press, of course. What sort of a joke we have been going through in the last few hours. As we are aware, we were sent to Kuje prison yesterday on the orders of this court. When we arrived there, contrary to what the judge said, we were not given any medical support, no food, no water. We were just put in an isolation center. This morning they came, took us out, drove us, handcuffed in a Black Maria that is probably just about to leave now, to this court. And in all, as has been found out in this court, they were just interested in using the power they have amassed against our rights to demand a better society. What I need to say very quickly is that we are in a historical moment in Nigeria. And I want to call on Nigerian people that this is the time to take sides. You want to decide on which side you want to be. If you want to continue to be with these incompetent oppressors, tyrants, or you want to be on the side of people who want to liberate Nigeria in the nearest future.
We are tired.
Yes.
We are tired of people. Tired of oppression. This is evil. Criminals.
So, on that note, we just want to thank those who are fighting everywhere on social media, those who are fighting diaspora to ensure that we are removed from this encumbrance. Please, let's finish. Yes. Please. Please, let's just wrap it up here. That the judge had made some other new consequential orders because apparently they do not have any charges, as you can imagine. But at the same time, they do not want us to be free citizens. So she has asked us to now be remanded back to the police at FCID Area 10 and told the police to provide us with all kinds of access. But that is not where we should be. We should be sleeping in our beds tonight.
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely. We have no business going back to a police that has no credibility, a police that engages in torture, a police that have no respect for human rights. That is not where we should have been. But the judge had to do what she had to do, which is provide some measure of comfort for us who are assailed by these very fraudulent charges of unlawful assembly, as if we are still under colonial rule, of criminal conspiracy. Who are we conspiring against? Bad government. Incitement. Who are we inciting? Our fellow citizens who are suffering. Those are the three charges before this court. So we are hopefully going back to the police. Yes. Detention until Friday. My own conviction is that they will be plotting other things between now and Friday. But we are ready for it. We are ready for it at all times. And as I keep saying, I'll say finally to Nigerians, a luta continua.
Now, with the video you've watched, viewers, it's like he predicted, because he prophesied that on Friday there will be another new drama, which we all know happened. So, sir, I mentioned Kabiru Sokoto. Why would a peaceful protester be handcuffed? And Kabiru Sokoto.
And the context in which oppression operates. And when you have an oppressive system, a tyrannical regime, is a system that empowers the criminal in a society, and disempowers or disempowers the innocent. Kabiru Sokoto is a hero of a tyrannical regime. They are the ones who enabled him, sponsored him, and probably made him go bomb the church, because that's the kind of society they want. They want to create division. They want to create bigotry. They don't want a society where things work. But for us who are asking for a better society, we are the enemies of that kind of state. So we're dealing with a criminal state. We are not surprised. Personally, I was, and I have been through this for over 30 years of different kinds of persecution. When I was in the university, I was fighting against, at a point, secret gangs, secret courts, I should call them. The university chose to expel me alongside the secret court members were fighting. When we fought back, they readmitted us with the secret courts.
Wow.
Yes. So many of the secret court guys are fighting against got better jobs than we did. They graduated before me, or so many of them got their NYC assignments before me. And what I was fighting for during those days in the 90s was for this country to have democracy. And democracy came. Who were the people rewarded under the democratic system or the hypocritic system or the moronic system of democracy, which I call morontocracy? They are the same people who were enabling the dictators at that time. They were the people who were saying that Babangida was the best, Abacha was the best. They were the ones who eventually became the new emerging political leaders from 1999. I don't want to start mentioning names, otherwise we'll stay here till forever. But most of them, during the time we were student leaders, were hiding under their beds. The moment the country was liberated, they came out. Some of them with stolen words. Some of them were drug dealers, drug addicts, armed robbers, kidnappers. They put on new gaps and became the governors you see today, the senators that you see today, the House of Reps members that you see today. Some of them became central bank governors and several other political positions that should go to decent citizens were allotted and allocated to these criminal elements. That's why Nigeria is in the state that it is today. Kabiru Shokoto, as you rightly referred to him, is a terrorist, but he's not even as dangerous as some of the people who are in political office today. I know of governors who started Niger Delta militancy. They are all still working free. The governor who started Boko Haram, we know him. He's part of the political machine in the country today, part of the ruling party at some point. Sometimes they allocate him or transfer him to the opposition. You cannot, underrate this conduct so that people can understand. Because a lot of citizens don't even know some of this history. It's part of the reason they wiped out history as a course of study, both in primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions in the country. Otherwise, we won't be where we are today. Some of the people that I used to wait for during Independence Day when I was a child, younger than this, in primary school, high school, when I got to the university, I had to fight them when I knew their history. That
Wow.
we had all along the venerating criminals.
So it means this course has been going on not just today.
30 years. I started precisely in 1989 when I was admitted to the University of Lagos and left Nigeria in 1999, 10 years later. Stayed in the US for 20 years. Came back in 2019 to run for office as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I still met the problem even worse than I left it.
Okay. Now, between the Nigerian government and its people have been an atmosphere of distrust. How do we get here? And what do you propose can change this and unify us as a people?
It is the reason why I don't hide it. I don't mask my feelings about politics. Maybe it's based out of experience, it's based out of exposure, and some measure of intellectual understanding of how people should operate. What am I saying? You cannot build trust by way of propaganda, which is what government has become in Nigeria. They will build 150 kilometers of train in a country that should have the fastest running trains in the world because of the amount of money we've made from even the sale of oil alone. And it will take us 6 months to celebrate it, even if it's going at 13 kilometers per hour. You understand? That is not the kind of country we should have in 2020. When the Dubai that all these criminal elements go to today was built with the same oil money that we make from the same oil market in the last maybe 30 years, if you want to be generous. But Nigeria has been around for 60 solid years. Is the oldest 60-year entity I know who is still crawling at 60. And we celebrate it. We say, wow, we're doing very well. I remember when they introduced a train ride from Abuja Metropolis to the airport. Everybody was like, we've never seen this before. I don't know if that train is still working. I don't know anybody who has taken it in the last 1 year, at least, that I know of. Because that is not the kind of system we should be operating. Now, coming to your question about the people and trust and government. Government is supposed to make people have trust in them by delivering on the responsibility of government. People cannot just trust government because government is walking around with handcuffs and AK-47 and then TV propaganda or radio or social media trolls. That don't bring about trust. Trust comes naturally. It comes out of decent relationship between the governed and the governors. That's not the case in Nigeria. That's why you see people can't trust government. That's why sometimes also you can't blame people when they see decent candidates and say, look, we've seen enough of these people. They come around, they make promises. The moment they get in there, they become the same kind of characters. I was watching 2 days ago a friend of mine, and I won't deny him. He used to be a member of the human rights community, now junior minister, Festus Keyamo, pushing wheelbarrow and using machete to cut some, grasses and calling that, an employment opportunity in 2020. I mean, who still uses machete? Cutlass, as we call it here. But in his own eyes, he's doing something great. 774,000 jobs, graduates to be using cutlass. The job, what 774,000 cutlass can do in a bush can be done by 2 tractors in 1 hour. What he would do in 6 months can be done by 2 tractors in 2 hours. That is the kind of backward level of thinking that has become what we call governance. So governance in Nigeria has become a joke. It's not even a joke, to be fair to the use of the word joke. It has become a criminal enterprise. And you just find the wrong people governing you, some of the most backward people. And it's no longer fair to say that if people are educated, they will govern better. No. We've seen very educated people. The vice president of Nigeria is a lawyer. This Festus Keyamo is a lawyer. We once had the president in this country who had a PhD. God knows where his dissertation is. But at least he had a PhD. What was the outcome of that government? Same result, same output. So for us to stop the garbage in, garbage out kind of governance, we need revolutionary thinking. We need people who have revolutionary mindsets, ideas, from thought processes to physical action. And that was what I came to do in 2019, where I engaged in partisan political action. But prior to that, I've been a political activist in all my life. And that's the reason why I don't like to be referred to as a politician, because it's as good as calling yourself an armed robber. It's as good as calling yourself a kidnapper in the open market. If somebody says, he's a politician, you know what it means. If somebody calls you a politician, they'll say, oh, it's because you owe them and you don't pay it back. They say, you're acting like a politician. If you do something wrong, people refer to you as, don't mind him, he's a politician. It's like a license to get away with misdemeanors and high crimes.
As a follow-up to what you just explained, you mentioned the revolution now, but that's where I want to completely explain. I think when you brought that phrase, it was misconstrued and thought to be a tout kind of a revolution. Probably people going about with sticks, machete, and all of that. Please, in 1 or 2 lines, we would love you to just explain what you meant. Is it the mental, I don't know what it is, revolution now?
It's like, I have described it and defined it and explained it this way.
Yes, sir.
We have passed the stage where we're trying to define to people what revolution means. Because in 2019, when we introduced revolution now as a protest, over 5 million searches were done on Google of the meaning of revolution. So if 5 million people searched it and got the answer, there's no reason to explain it to them anymore. But quite honestly, my idea of revolution is holistic, it's total. From the mind to the foot. Because you have to conceive it in your mind first before you act on it in reality. But what I need to say to you, which will help, is that there's no country that has been through a revolution that went back to do what it used to do before. And that's what we want. We want to change totally the way we do things now, both physically, mentally, spiritually, whichever way you can imagine it. We need a total overhaul of everything, our minds, all the way to our operating theaters and the hospitals, everywhere, our schools, our roads.
Simply the inefficiency of the services should be changed to efficient services.
But you cannot do it without a different kind of thinking and mindset
Understand.
and even action.
Now, there's this viral video. We
Yeah.
know we're going to touch on you, and probably as a journalist, I guess, there's this video about you and the IPOB leader
Yes.
in Kanu
Yes.
that went viral. And then some quarters in the media, it was speculated that it simply meant you endorsed his style and all the illegalities of his structure, so to speak, according to the state. Please, for the opt-in time, uh, we would love you to probably shed more light on that after this video.
You all know that I've been passionate about, and he has also been passionate about, but on a different plane. And we respect those boundaries. And but we've had very, very useful conversations today, so that everybody that's aspiring for a just and fair society, you know, can come together and rise up now and bring about an end to the sorrow and the suffering and the domination and the oppression that has become almost synonymous with our genes in Nigeria. So, as you all know, you probably haven't seen me with him because it's our first time of meeting. And those of you out there who think that we have such big differences that we can't talk, well, you know that when people have revolutionary minds, these minds meet, and the bodies eventually do meet. So it's a pleasure to introduce you to that moment. You know, more of this will come out later, and the statements and the video will come out also from our friend who monitor this meeting. So thank you so much, Kazi, for the meeting, and to say hello to our people on our side.
Yes. Hello to wonderful people that follow and listen to us, our reporters, and my good friend here. Sowore. What our discussion has yielded today is a confirmation that people can come together, that there isn't much of a difference between that which we are fighting for, because that is justice, isn't it? That's what we are fighting for, is justice. That we know and hope that the people that found themselves today trapped in that contraption called Nigeria will one day be free. And it takes people to do it. It will come from heaven. We have to do it. We have the right to do it, and it must be done.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I hope to see you again soon. This is the beginning of a series of conversation that will.
Now, sir, with the video, from what you discussed, probably closed door and the little snippets we watched, we believe, yes, you probably would have common grounds. And the speculation, like I actually said, is people are thinking or are saying in quarters that you actually endorse some of his own private actions. Now, like I said, we would love you to share more light as to your probably a snippet into what you discussed that has to do with, like, from the snippet, it simply is geared towards nation building, and I heard the mention of injustice. Now, if that's what you both discussed, does it really mean you endorse virtually everything in Canada?
The question you should have asked is if he endorsed my position
Okay.
on social justice. They believe that Nigeria cannot be redeemed anymore and that it should be broken into pieces. And as a priority, they want a Biafran nation. I did not participate in the Civil War. I was born in 1971, a year after the Civil War ended. I don't have a duty to continue the Civil War that these old guards created, fought, and killed 3 million people. And I understand that you can't kill 3 million people and just hope that and wish it away. So in arriving at the conclusion to meet with him, I was actually telling him that, look, it is great to have Biafra, but a just, fair, and equitable nation, Nigeria, will actually be a better place for all of us. And as I've always said, I'm a Pan Africanist. I want the entire African continent to be one country if I have my way. So I'm not a big fan of creating enclaves. There are people who are watching me today who hate me for not supporting the breakup of Nigeria. Some of them even on the Oduduwa side of fence. What I keep telling them is that, look, when you break up Nigeria, you break up Nigeria with all the bastards in the center will go to their various, enclaves, and they will torment you there. So our first responsibility as people who are aspiring for true freedom is to have a revolution so that all our tormentors at the center will run away. If we then decide I want to break up, you will have respite wherever you go. Because otherwise, there is no corruption in this country that you look into, that all the ethnic groups are
will
excluded
not
from.
suffer.
There is no criminal activity perpetrated by government or those in government today that has exclusive to Hausa or Yorubas alone or Igbos. In fact, it's as if when it's time to steal, there is no ethnicity,
Yes, yeah.
there's no religion. Their only religion is greed. But when it is time for them to share, suddenly they remember that you're Hausa, you are Igbo, you are Yoruba. They use all these things against us. But we must also not discountenance the genuine feelings of a lot of Nigerians that things are not working and they want a small place where they think things can work. As I've often said and been quoted widely during the election campaigns in 2019, it's not only Biafrans that wants to leave Nigeria. A lot of
Complaining.
Nigerians have
Are
mentally
complaining.
seceded from Nigeria. Yes, a lot of us, if somebody were to bring a huge vehicle to this Abuja that can take maybe 1 million people and say, let's go, there will be senators on that vehicle, House of Rep members, governors who will leave Nigeria, even with all their properties, because Nigeria doesn't do anything for you, doesn't protect you, doesn't provide education for you, doesn't provide safety, it doesn't even provide rest of mind, even when you have money. So a lot of people, if you don't have this contextual understanding of how much of a burden Nigeria is, then you won't be able to talk to the likes of Kano. But I'll say one last thing, to you.
Yes, sir.
When I was detained with the DSS, they interrogated me about 4 times. The last interrogation, they were asking me if there's a way I can help them talk to Kano. Because they heard we are friends. Oh, I said, now you want to talk. See, when you have leaders, real leaders, they take decisions and initiatives to de-escalate tension where there is tension. Sometimes not because the country cannot fight to kill its people, but because there is no need for the bloodletting. Had they resolved the Biafran issue in
Years back.
1965, we would not have had to kill 3 million people. What am I telling you? At any time, any day, peace is better than war. But in the middle of it, there must be justice. Because you cannot force peace on people without justice. Otherwise, you only have peace of the graveyard.
So, in a nutshell, now, are you debunking the rumors and allegation out there that the bond you share with Inamdi has nothing to do with Biafra? You're not in support of Biafra, or
Before we even had this conversation, we had a live stream where I told him directly that, I mean, why not we just fight together? I proposed to him that instead of fighting in cocoons,
Yes, sir.
we should fight as a united body of young people across the country.
okay.
Because apart from Nnamdi Kanu,
There are the people,
there are a lot of disgruntled people in
Nigerians
Nigeria
actually.
who we need to come together. And we know the source of our angst and agony. Why are we wasting our energy just fighting small, small battles? I'm just coming from the police headquarters to go and collect my shoes. I met a woman there and she said, I will support you if you fight for NEPA. I said to her, I didn't have a chance to reply. I said, why are you fighting small, small battles when you can fight one
Never.
big battle, NEPA, road?
As if you made up the tariff.
Yes,
So,
NEPA tariff is just, a symptom of several other
A bad
problems.
yeah,
system.
some people believe revolution now
Mm,
is a script, that you have a paymaster, someone paying you to do this,
yes.
and that your activism is commercial, not born from conviction or greater good, as you claim. And with all this going on and the speculation,
Yeah.
what do you have to say, and how do you clear yourself of this allegation?
There's no allegation there. I happen to be someone who have spent my entire life fighting for the people, the right of people to freely express themselves, including when you have stupid things to say. You're free to say. Otherwise, how do you look at someone like me, who 30 years ago, when I was 21 years old, was fighting for democracy? 1992, 1993. I started going to detention since 1992 when I was 21 years old. I have been fighting for what is just and right in this country longer than most of the governors. Even this president you have today cannot claim, apart from fighting in a war, he can't claim to have fought for public good more than nobody can do so. In my own generation, I'm going to be 50 years old by February 16 this year. And I'm not saying it so that you can send me gifts. I'm just announcing how old I'll be. How do you look at a guy like that and say to yourself, with 30 years of unblemished records of activism as a student, a media activist, someone who's done international work, I've done environmental work, I have fought for students, fought for adults, I fought for babies. All these things are documented. And you look at me and call me a commercial activist. I'm probably one of the poorest people on earth who does what I do. I'm a poor guy who fights rich people instead of joining them to make money. If I wanted to do what most commercial activists do, I would have bought an island of my own and be living there all by myself. Electricity, private jets, helicopter pad, yacht to go with it. Everybody, people who are saying that know that, but there's a value of there's a value with the internet and saying egregious things. Everybody just come up and say the most. If you go to a comment section, if someone says something terrible, the next person wants to say
Want to
something more
respond.
terrible than is the nature of the commentary system. They don't have to provide evidence, but that's not bad in itself. It's good that we can have those kind of comments. That's what I'm saying. Like, people can say that about me. I should be able to say that about the president and not go to prison.
Now, in line with what you just said, you were arrested and charged with unlawful assembly,
Yeah.
incitement, like we watched, disturbance and criminal conspiracy.
Yes.
We're now asking you, based on your days in court, did that happen? Did you break any of these laws?
No, I don't even understand the charges. That we went out New Year's Eve and to do what we call crossover protest. The same way the churches are doing crossover nights. We just opted to do protest because we're not satisfied with the situation of the country. And policemen came, started picking up people, beating them up. And I went to the commander and said, "Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Oh, this is Sowore. He headbutted me, broke my nose. Blood was pouring out, and they pepper sprayed about all of us, 5 of us, until we couldn't breathe anymore, and then drove us to Abacha, where they still operate SARS in Abuja, one of the most notorious police facilities in Abuja." So, how does that translate to incitement? You see, even if that were to be the case, I would just ask our people to have contentment in what Martin Luther King said in one of his quotations. I don't know, I can't frame it exactly, it's not in front of me, but he said, if it's necessary to break the law, an unjust law, so that there can be public consciousness, you should do it. If there is an unjust law that's called illegal assembly, simply because I want to fight the government that is insensitive, I will be happy to do it. If there's an unjust law that restricts my rights to fully express myself and my discontent with my government, I'll be glad to break it. But these are not, they can't defend it. That's the reason why they kept moving us from police station to prison. Go and look at what they call the FIR, that's the first information report is filed. It was the most incompetent thing that any police officer could file. But they knew what they were doing when they brought it. They just wanted us to be sent to prison, and until the public outrage was serious enough for them to say, "Okay, let's let them go for now." And shamefully, the judiciary was also participant in that.
As a follow-up to this, I think I will borrow your line.
Yes.
I am their target.
Yes.
Is this what the picture is?
That was it. And as you said, when we were in court on, I think, Tuesday. I told them, I said, they're just doing all these manipulations so that they plan their next move. And what was their next move? By Friday, they had started looking for other ways to complicate our trial because the charges weren't strong enough in their eyes. So they were looking everywhere under cooking pots, inside placards, to manufacture, more grievous charges, so that by Monday they would take us from the magistrate court to maybe a federal high court or FCT, and then slap against us some new fresh charges, like I've never heard about before. But I think because of the backlash, pushback, and outrage, they had to stop there. So we spent 11 days for no reason in detention, several detention centers in the city and outside the city. They took us to prison where we were put in what they call isolation center, but effectively it was a death row cell.
Did they tell you why they arrested you? Had anything to do with COVID-19 protocol?
Yeah.
That was the first thing they started with.
Okay.
But they discovered that they were the ones breaching COVID-19 that night because none of the policemen wore face masks. When they reviewed our video, they saw that the protesters observed social distancing, and they all wore face masks, so they couldn't, and that would be ridiculous.
You became the hunter being hunted.
Yes.
Okay. Miss Adetong Onojabi, this woman claimed there was a cover-up by you, which hindered assisting some girls who were raped. Please tell Nigerians what they need to know about the story.
If I understand this very correctly, I've addressed it when it came up. It was a lady who contacted me on Facebook and said she had some girls that were under some bridge in Ikeja. I was in the US then, and I sent our reporter to help her. I wasn't even in Nigeria. And when they went with her, they discovered that she had arranged some young people as a script to claim that they were underprivileged. And she was sharing to them PDP paraphernalia. So she was working with Jimmy Agbaje at that time.
Of Lagos State.
Of Lagos, who was running for Lagos. And then when those guys came back to me and they said, come on, why did you send us on position? It would be, in fact, exploitation of
the people.
The at that point. But sometimes that's I actually went on my Facebook page. I was lucky. I see a screenshot of our conversation. I sent it up.
Okay.
So, and it turns out that it's lied and in some ways, I think it's part of the political hit job for that period when the truth can she still put the story out herself. Like gazillions of media houses.
So why target me?
But not new to that.
Now, as a follow-up, I am coming to one of your own industry, the media.
Yes.
The media, as informing and educating as they are, their captions sometimes do damage intentions. An example is the perception they have about you, people have about you because of certain captions. What kind of advice do you have for mainstream media, print media, all the sectors of the media? Because the truth is, why we brought you here today is for people to know the man. That yes, this is who you are, the journalist, the activist, and the political man that they all know.
Yes.
So what do you have as advice to the media when it comes to home truths?
I think you've rightly captured it. You mentioned the mainstream media, but there's the media most people don't know. That's the main street media. And the main street media has overtaken the mainstream media because the mainstream media is still stuck in that arrogant space of, we tell you the news, we analyze it to you, and we tell you what to believe and what to disbelieve. And I came from the main street media when I started Sowore Reporters. It was because even the media platforms I used to trust started telling me some lies. I was there when the media was vibrant in this country under military rule, and I was shocked to see that under civilian rule, the media was so compromised. They are so embedded with the political system. Today you can barely open a newspaper and find any serious report or tangible news that tells the exact story. Everybody's repeating what someone else has written. In fact, the government has perfected the system where they just syndicate news.
Simply the Nigerian
The
music.
Nigerian government, every minister has a newsroom. Instead of waiting for the media to cover their stories, the newsroom will write the story for you and so go and put it. And shamefully, a lot of the newspapers, TV stations repeat the same. In fact, sometimes they use the stories
words.
word for word.
Word for word.
They don't even put any creativity into telling their own lies. So, but don't forget that there's also internet, all these micro blog sites. There's Twitter, there's Facebook now, there's Instagram. So if you don't tell the story in the mainstream, the main street will tell it. That's why the government is no longer afraid of the mainstream media, but really upset about the main street media. Part of why they target me all the time is not because of my political activism alone. That disturbs them. But it is because of my media engagement, investigative journalism, breaking news, putting out stories that everybody wants to hide. So just so that you know, since I was released a year ago before I was arrested this time around, the Attorney General had sued me. The Inspector General of Police sued me. There's one religious leader sued me, a Christian leader sued me, one apostle Suleiman sued me. All of that, everybody is out there suing me for. They are all struggling to be ahead in terms of how many people have sued Sowore, how many times have. There are people who are even suing Sahara reporters by proxy. Something that is alien to law. Just like you take voice, your medium now to court on behalf of the Attorney General, or on behalf of the president, or the behalf of the vice, the wife of the president, or the behalf of the daughter of the president. Everybody sues. And each time they sue Sahara reporters, which they know is a legal entity separate from myself, they will make sure they sue Sowore with it. But nobody sues Bola Tinubu when they want to sue the nation. Nobody sues Buhari when you want to sue NTA, because Buhari is effectively the DG, the owner of NTA and Voice of Nigeria and several other propaganda outlets. But they target me personally for stories, even though they know that I've not been actively engaging in journalism in a long time. But that's not the issue. It's to understand that when these things are happening, we are probably doing something right.
Okay, thank you. You once contested to be president of Nigeria. Would you run again in the next election under the same party? And if elected, what do you have to offer to Nigerians?
That's a loaded question. One is that it is true that I contested in 2019. And as you know, if you look at this country in the last 60 years, you can count the number of persons that ever contested for president. So I happen to be one of the few people who have done that. That's one. Second aspect of it is if I will contest under the same political party. Of course, if I do, that will be the case. But would there be even a greater interest and coalition of the oppressed who will come together this time around, compress together so that we make even the contest swifter, bigger, and better? Yes. I know the question that's most important and uppermost in your mind is, are you going to contest again? And I've answered this question both philosophically and directly. Philosophically in the sense that we're in a contest for freedom already. And that's a very powerful contest. We started that as soon as the elections were over in 2019. That's what revolution now is about. Is what all the political activism you have seen, my going to detention for 5 months, coming out, continuing with what you can refer to as a gospel for justice, and going back to detention. It's all a contest for the political space in Nigeria to be freed and liberated. But the political context itself will come when it will come. I say it all the time that, sometimes even the new set of leaders will be determined by situational variables. Don't let us be arrogant about them. Not the best material in Nigeria who can run for president. Probably others have been buried in the rubbles of doubt, fear, and oppression. Maybe even the work we are doing is to let out several other intelligent people who otherwise would not have come out. I don't know. But if it is determined, again, by situational variables in the coming days, weeks, months, and years, that we should move in the direction of the barricades on the political front, you bet you can trust without arrogating to myself powers that I may not have, without bragging too much, that I would be a better candidate than these other jokers that you have on other platforms. There's no question about that. We demonstrated that in 2019. That was why they were scared. They were scared to even have to allow me participate in the presidential debate because they knew that that would have been the melting pot and the melting point for a lot of these candidates that they put out. They would have just done their skin them alive. I don't mean physically, demystify them and let the public decide whether they want to go with the old system, failed system, or they want to go with a bright digital style of new leadership. But I think what I'll say in view of those who are watching is that young people, young people need to just wake up. We've been sleeping for too long, and uh, don't let us overrate ourselves simply because we did one NSAS. Right? There are countries who are doing NSAS every week. Yes, and they have not been liberated. So you can't do one and just go and rest on your hours and then start walking around. Oh, I did NSAS. I did NSAS. Like we need NSAS in our life every day. We read Revolution 9 in our lives every day. To even have the opportunity to partake in a political system that will deliver the kind of outcomes and output that we need. Because Nigeria elections used to be that if you go to elections, you are not allowed to participate. They've moved away from that. Now they will allow you to participate. It is no longer the person who conducts the election that determines the result. It's now the person who announces the results. They've moved several steps ahead of us. So even the electoral umpire that you have today, without a